You wake up exhausted, but you slept 8 hours. You step into a shower, but you still feel unclean. You cross off your to-do list, but the emptiness grows louder. You sit alone for a moment, and something inside you whispers, "This isn't it." There's no fire, no clarity, no pulse that connects you to something deeper than this day, this week, this grind. And yet, you're doing everything right, aren't you? You're productive, you're disciplined, you're successful. So why does it feel like you're slowly dissolving on the inside? You call it burnout, but what if that's a lie you've been taught to believe? What if burnout isn't exhaustion from doing too much, but the soul's protest from doing too little of what matters? What if you're not tired from effort, but from meaninglessness? Because a machine breaks when it's overworked, but a soul breaks when it's underfed. This is the crack. The invisible fracture you hide behind smiles, screens, and check boxes. The split between what the world expects from you and what your deeper self is silently screaming for. You sense it in the quiet moments. The ache, the aimlessness, the ghost of something you've forgotten or never really known, but you've gotten good at ignoring it. The caffeine, the distractions, the performance, the noise. It numbs, it works, until it doesn't. And here's the question that claws at the back of your mind. What if the life you're surviving is the very thing that's killing your spirit? Let that thought in. Not to destroy, but to unmask. To reveal the deeper hunger your achievements have never satisfied. Because beneath your burnout, there may be something far more dangerous. You are spiritually starving, and no amount of sleep, therapy, or time off will fill a void of meaning. You've been taught to chase comfort, validation, efficiency. But what you truly long for is significance. And if you feel like something's missing, it's because something is. Now, the real question begins. What happened to your fire? Burnout is often treated like a technical error, like the system just needs to reboot. Take a break, sleep more, cut caffeine, optimize your workflow. But this only grazes the surface and leaves the sickness untouched. Because what we call burnout, Viktor Frankl might have called an existential vacuum. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote, "When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure." That's what modern life has become. A vast ecosystem of distraction designed to mask the absence of inner purpose. Scroll, click, achieve, repeat, but always avoid the silence. Because in silence, the emptiness speaks. Frankl believed that humans are not merely biological machines, but meaning-seeking creatures. Strip us of meaning, and we don't just feel lost, we begin to rot inside. Now look at our world. Productivity is prized. Busyness is worn like a badge. Success is measured in metrics, not meaning. In such a culture, the soul is irrelevant, and so we shrink. We conform. We build outer empires and inner deserts. Jung called this the loss of soul, not in a religious sense, but a psychological one. He believed the modern person suffers not from a lack of knowledge or tools, but from a disconnection with the unconscious self, the inner voice that once guided us toward wholeness. You were born with that voice, but over time, society taught you to ignore it. Be realistic. Don't think so deeply. Just be grateful. Do what's expected. These phrases weren't advice. They were quiet bullets that killed your inner compass. You learned to suppress discomfort instead of listening to what it reveals. You buried your hunger for meaning beneath duty, performance, and external validation. And slowly, the real you began to disappear. Schopenhauer warned us long ago. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves to be like other people. So here you are. Burnout, not because you've been doing too much, but because you've been living too little of what is true to you. You've achieved without alignment. You've produced without purpose. And so your soul, silenced for years, begins to rebel. This rebellion doesn't come as a thunderclap. It comes as dullness, fog, apathy, dread. It whispers, "There must be more than this." But when no one around you speaks that language, you begin to think the problem is you. It's not. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to keep you numb, obedient, and productive. But you weren't designed to be a machine. You were meant to mean something. And if that ache still lives in you, you haven't lost your soul. You've only lost your way back to it. The greatest danger of spiritual starvation is not death. It's imitation. When meaning disappears, performance takes its place. You don't live, you replicate. You scan the world for models of success, happiness, and power. Then wear their masks like armor. But deep down, you feel it. You've lost the thread of your own life. You wake up tired. Not physically, existentially. A dull ache follows you, from task to task, from call to call. You're doing everything right, and yet something sacred is missing. And so you overcompensate. You pursue status, hoping it will fill the hollow. You chase intensity, new jobs, new lovers, new philosophies, trying to outrun the silence. You become addicted to stimulation, because stillness now feels like death. But this is the lie. You're not tired because you've worked too hard. You're tired because you've lived too far from what nourishes you. Frankl warned us that when a person can't find meaning, they become dangerously susceptible to what he called the existential vacuum, a state of inner emptiness that invites depression, aggression, and addiction. That's the hidden cost of a life without alignment. You begin to self-destruct in subtle ways. You sabotage relationships that feel too honest. You reject opportunities that threaten your comfort. You hide behind productivity to avoid confronting your pain. Even your language changes. You no longer speak of truth or calling or soul. You speak of deadlines, efficiency, burnout, as if you're just a cog that overheated. But you're not a cog. You're a living mind with spiritual needs. The deeper you suppress this need, the more distorted your inner world becomes. You start envying people who seem free, not realizing they simply refuse to betray themselves. You start resenting others who rest, because rest would force you to face the hollowness you've buried. This is the real burnout. You become a stranger to your own life. You no longer ask yourself, what do I long for? What do I believe in? Because you fear the answers might undo everything you've built. But here's the truth. Anything that crumbles from the weight of your truth wasn't your foundation. It was your cage. Until you confront the emptiness directly, you will keep medicating symptoms instead of addressing the root. And the root is this: you are not here to perform. You are here to awaken. But awakening comes at a cost. It requires burning away the false self you've spent years building and reclaiming the voice you once silenced. The pain you're feeling, it's not burnout. It's your soul asking to be heard again. There's a moment, a small, almost imperceptible one, when you stop asking how to fix yourself and instead ask, what part of me have I abandoned? That question changes everything because the answer is never technical. It doesn't live in your calendar, your to-do list, or your productivity system. It lives in your being, in the neglected, unseen parts of yourself that once held meaning before efficiency replaced depth. Viktor Frankl said, those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. But in modern life, we reverse this. We obsess over the how, the methods, the metrics, the machines, and we lose our why in the noise. To reclaim your power, you don't need more motivation. You need more alignment. You need to get painfully honest about what you're doing out of fear and what you're no longer doing out of love. That means confronting the quiet betrayals, the job you chose for status, not purpose, the silence you keep to avoid disapproval, the hours you spend pleasing others but never feeding yourself. This isn't about quitting everything. It's about returning to the source. What moves you? What breaks you open? What still feels sacred? Maybe it's art, or nature, or solitude. Maybe it's a kind of service that doesn't scale. Whatever it is, find it again. Not as a hobby, but as a necessity. The shift begins when you stop viewing yourself as a problem to solve and start seeing yourself as a soul to reawaken. And for that, you'll need new lenses. Lenses like discipline as devotion, not punishment, stillness as power, not laziness, boundaries as love, not selfishness, pain as information, not weakness. These frames don't just help you survive, they help you come home. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but becoming yourself isn't convenient. It's disruptive. It will cost you approval, performance, comfort, and possibly success, at least the kind the world rewards. But what you gain is truth. And with truth comes a kind of peace that no burnout can touch. Because burnout is loud, but alignment is silent. You stop fighting your life. You begin flowing with it. You make fewer moves, but every move has weight. You say less, but your words carry soul. You do less, but you are more. And in that quiet shift, you realize you were never meant to be a machine. You were meant to become a mirror, reflecting back something real in a world addicted to illusion. There comes a moment when everything falls silent, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You stop looking for escape routes. You stop bargaining with your exhaustion. And in that silence, you meet yourself. Not the version of you who gets things done. Not the mask you wear for approval. Not the performer, the planner, the pleaser. Just you. Tired, perhaps. Fractured, yes, but still alive. Still burning with the faint light of meaning. And you realize this burnout was never a failure of energy. It was a failure of direction. A starvation of the soul. You've been pouring yourself out for things that never once poured back into you. You've been digesting a life that was never truly yours. And you've mistaken numbness for strength. But now you see. You see that meaning is not something you chase. It's something you build. Moment by moment. Choice by choice. You see that the modern world will not hand you purpose. It will offer distraction, comfort, noise, but not depth. Meaning is handcrafted, forged in silence, birthed in discomfort, sustained by truth. And that truth is this: you do not need to become more. You need to remember what you are. A being of will, a vessel of spirit, a mind capable of making meaning out of suffering, not avoiding it, not escaping it, but transforming it. Frankl survived the unthinkable because he refused to let suffering define him. He chose, again and again, to assign meaning, even in hell. And if that power existed in a concentration camp, then it exists in you here now, in traffic, in silence, in uncertainty, in despair. You are not here to be efficient. You are here to be whole. And that wholeness requires a return to slowness, to solitude, to sacredness. Because the deepest form of self-care is honesty. Honesty about what feeds you. Honesty about what drains you. Honesty about the fact that no amount of rest can repair a life you don't even want. So here you are, not broken, not lazy, not weak, just spiritually starving. And the remedy is not more hustle, it's meaning, it's truth, it's soul. So go, not forward, but inward. Not faster, but deeper. And remember, you are not a machine. You are a mystery. And you are ready to remember.